How we doing, everyone? Welcome back to another edition of FSI's NASCAR DFS Pick Show. I'm your host, TK Nation 47, bringing you up, joined with Mega Rule 31. Mega, how you doing?
Good.
Bringing you guys a Atlanta Cup video for NASCAR. Sorry, I was just explaining to Mega my excitement levels, and I got my energy pumped up for this race. It's going to be a really fun one. Mega, how was the Xfinity and Truck Series? How did it go for you? Are you looking forward to tomorrow's race?
Truck, I think I won like $4. That just didn't really work out. Wasn't horrible. You know, I think I lost like 100 or so, but I didn't go like super hard at it because, again, we really didn't know what to expect here. Now, Xfinity had a little bit of feel. I went a little bit more. Actually finished 8th in the Chrome Horn. Took him like almost $400. Like I actually 10x my money. Like I put 34 in on a line and got 340 out of it. So I mean, you can never complain on that. And we pretty much nailed it because I don't think many people were on like Austin Hill, and he didn't win the race, but he came very close to it. But a lot of the guys, and if Jade Buford didn't break his track bar, he had a career day and he was running in the top 10.
We would have took everything down.
Yeah. So no, and I think we kind of figured it out. Like, and I'm not saying that Cup is going to be anything like this, but from what we saw, it was a racetrack that seems to be very fast, almost like a super speedway at some point. You did see a lot of single file, but you could see cars at times getting together and having a second lane. It's hard to go 3 wide here without being a disaster. We saw a big wreck in Xfinity, but we also saw the drivers be able to avoid spinning cars and not have a big wreck. So it'll be interesting with Cup and see, what happens here. But I think, the 3 principles, again, that I laid out in our Discord for our subscribers is number 1, bankroll management. Don't go super hard or your normal amount here because there is a lot of unknown. Even so, we've seen 2 series here. We do not know, exactly how this track is going to work for the Cup. I think, next time around when they come back to it, we'll have a much better feel. The second thing is that we're going to kind of treat it like a plate race, where we're going to take some guys in the back, but also maybe consider some of the guys closer to the top, whereas you naturally pretty much eliminate most of the top 10 in a plate race and only take guys from the back. But here you did see in both Truck and Xfinity, there were people in the top 5 or 10 that were able to stay up there consistently throughout the race. There were quite a few that like fell back and quite a few that had issues, but it was, kind of shocking that they were able to hold their position in a track where you could pass. But we didn't see I didn't get a chance to look at like how many laps were like led by, like who led the most laps or anything like that. I apologize. But it didn't seem like it changed as fluidly and as frequently as you would see it at Daytona, where one line has it, the other line has it, one line has it, but it did seem like there was multiple people leading throughout the courses of both races. So principle number 2 is, we're looking for like place differential, and then maybe some people up top versus like a dominator race where we want to find like somebody who's going to lead the first lap, somebody who in the middle who could get up there and lead the second wave of laps, and then, finishing position. And then third and finally, if we are using guys in the back, then don't feel like you have to use all of your salary and DK. If you I think one of my lines was like $4,000 short, just because I had the people that I wanted and I didn't want to pay up for somebody just because I could. I really wanted to, have the line that I felt was going to be the most impactful. So those are the 3 things to keep in mind.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. I want to give you guys what I took away from practice today. As I watched in pretty much awe, one of the most exciting practices I've ever seen in my entire life. Just the pack racing is going to be, it's going to be so awesome. And honestly, I'm excited. Like you said, though, the guy out in front seemed to be able to hold his line a lot easier than it would be on, Daytona. It kind of reminded me of
Michigan.
Yeah, I was gonna say Michigan, but just
Charlotte, Texas.
like on steroids though.
Right.
Like you're going that 210-mile-an-hour Michigan speed, but just you're able to control the car a lot more. It's incredible. Some of the cars that are handling the best, I think, are the cars that we want. I'll outline some of the guys that I felt like had a really good control of their car, and I think they're going to be pretty good drivers to target for finishing position. I think speed is kind of neutral throughout the entire field. I wouldn't take into account too much of speed from practice. I think everyone can kind of fluctuate their speeds based on just where they are in the draft. A lot of guys getting runs are still a big thing here, and this new setup with the next gen car in the new Atlanta track. I think it's going to be a great race. I'm pretty pumped, but we're here to talk fantasy and what we're going to do here for DraftKings picks. So let's jump on in for DraftKings. Mega, do you want to do what we did with the truck and Xfinity videos where we started in the back and worked our way to the front?
Yeah, I think let's do it that way. That works.
Okay. We got Biffle and Bilicki and Reagan. Any interest in these three?
I think I like Reagan. Even though it's a Rick Ware car, he's been in NASCAR for a while. All three of them have really, but I just look back at Daytona and Greg Biffle. He had a lot of mechanical issues with the car. The car only runs on peanut oil or something. No, I was gonna say it only runs at like Daytona and like speedways and stuff. So this is kind of like a special guest appearance. Was able to make it in on just, I don't know, former champion or something like that as last guy in. I don't even know if anybody else like even registered. They just seeing 37, that's an odd number, and I think they would have probably taken like 38 if they had another guy. So, but anyways, right. I just question the mechanical aspect of his car. Bilicki, I think his GPP, like he was so consistent the last couple of years, actually like finishing races, and if there is some attrition, he can move up. But I think like the safest out of this one is David Reagan.
Mm-hmm. Now that's probably because of his plate race or his super speedway history. David Reagan, former winner at Daytona. I think he won like the July race, right? David Reagan.
Yeah, I think it was that, but like he was, and again, like practice is deceiving because some people were, trying to go out there and make adjustments, and other ones like, were, there weren't like too many like long run cars out there, but he was like 15th, so he looked decent. So he didn't look like a turtle like BJ McLeod, who's the next guy that we're coming up upon. So
yeah. I'll never play BJ McLeod. That's not going to happen. I think maybe no. You know what? I'm not playing McLeod, Biffle, or Bilicki. I'll play a little bit of Reagan just to cover myself in case he gets one of those David Reagan type top tens where half the field wrecked. And look here comes David Reagan on the inside, come in 7th. And that's kind of what we saw with Kyle. Yeah. Well, that's kind of what we saw with Kyle Weatherman. He just hung around. He had speed all day, but he wasn't putting himself in the bad position that some others did, when they had the big one at the Xfinity race earlier today. And then he was just there to strike for a top 10. And I think that's something David Reagan can pull off. And especially this next driver, Corey Lejoy, who I think actually could race himself into the top 10. He looked super good in practice. Not only with speed, like I mentioned, a kind of neutral factor heading into tomorrow. He's car handled really well. He's handled it well all throughout the entire season so far. He's doing the Corey Lejoy thing, Mega, just like last year, where you can't possibly play him because he's starting too far forward, but here he is. He's still finishing 15th. So I'm playing Corey Lejoy. I'm not missing this.
And that's why I have him listed as a prime play.
Yeah. All right. Your thoughts on Cody Ware or Harrison Burton?
Cody Ware, I think he's pretty safe for the price. He's the cheapest driver, and I think the ownership will still be low on him just because it's a Rick Ware car, but he's he looked decent in practice also with like top 10 speed putting on some laps, and that's what great about this new car in parity. So if you're trying to put some of these high dollar cars in, I think a lot of people will be trying to put like four of some of these guys that we're going to come up upon in the mid-range that struggled last. And I think, you know, if the viewers, we should probably said it earlier, they didn't have qualifying for this. It was rained out. So they used the formula, and it pretty much was based on last week's results is like how they qualified here. So there were some guys that had horrible races last week that are starting way down just because of the formula, who have really good cars. So I think a lot of people are going to gravitate towards those. And if that's what your strategy is going to be, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, we'll get to that in a minute. 4,800 could be a great price tag to help you accomplish that.
Yeah, and these guys know after seeing a race earlier today that they're never truly out of it, that they can continue to work themselves in and out of even the second pack of drafts. And even if they're a couple laps down, if crashes happen, they'll be able to work their way to the front eventually. So I don't think there's going to be much give up as far as being, laps down from the back of the pack. So I think you could see Cody Ware be a last guy standing kind of thing, finishing inside the top 20, which will pay off that 4,800. Harrison Burton in the 21.
I actually there's a guy I know at work that knows NASCAR pretty well, Richie. Thanks for watching, friend of the show.
Nice.
He actually brought up some good points here that, yes, he's had some trouble this season, but Daytona, he was doing really, really well till Keslowski took him out. Yeah. And in Xfinity, he did really well. The Woods brother car has done really well on plate tracks before. And one of the things that we also saw today in Xfinity especially is you had not manufacturers like in a plate track, but you had like teams really gelling together and working together. We said that we would never play Corey Heim until he showed us something. Well, he must have watched the video because he won the race. But I think that was very well assisted by his teammates, even to the fact where John Hunter Nemechek was down a couple laps and even popped in to the leaders to block and to try to help. And I think, Chandler Smith also helped him with that victory. And you saw them together. You saw like the Coley cars working together. You saw the Gibbs cars working together and the JR Motorsports cars working together in Xfinity. So he's got an affiliation with the Penske cars. So, and they've always been strong here too. Like when we get to the top, we're going to say like they're some really decent drivers. So I could see him hooking up with them and them working together. And there was it seemed like a new technique was born on this track, and they were calling it leapfrogging on the where you had like a team and like one of them would like swing around, like pop out quick and then pop out in front of a car, and they're like passing them one by one. It seemed like Austin Hill and Creed were doing that and working together. So maybe they're onto something. Maybe they'll, and of course, like, Joey Logano was a Penske driver who was watching and commentating the race. So I don't know, maybe it's all going to come together, but I don't know. I think going back to Harrison Burton, I think that with his affiliation, with his pedigree in Xfinity and what we've seen, yes, he's ended up on his in some wild wrecks, a couple. I don't think they were his fault, but I think, in his starting position and what his potential is, he's definitely a good cash play.
All right. So I'm sold. Next up, we have Noah Gragson racing in the 16 this week for Colleague Racing. 5,800, pretty nice price tag here. The 16's been up and down with Daniel Hemrick riding in it. A couple of fast qualifying laps, but
I'm surprised Allmendinger didn't get this, but
yeah, with the win in Atlanta last year. Noah Gragson, sure. I don't see any harm in it. Starting 30th, 5,800.
I think he's going to be very highly owned, but he's a GPP for me over a cash play, just because look what happened last year when like Austin Cindric came up and he was in a decent car, and even Justin Haley and some of these guys who did like spot starts up in Cup. The car is completely different. And it doesn't seem like their talent translates right away. They do okay, but we look at them, we start salivating at the price tag because we know, like, oh wow, if he was 5,800 Xfinity, like, you know, he would be 100% in every single lineup. It's like automatic lock button. But
Sure.
and just looking at practice, like maybe he was focused on the Xfinity race. It was a long day for him, but he was like 33rd. And we have seen this car struggle a little bit. So I think I'm going to be underweight on him. I will have a little bit, I think, more of a GPP aspect, but I don't think he's the cash play that a lot of people think he is.
I completely agree. I'm going to have just a little bit of exposure, but nothing major here. I think I actually rather play Michael McDowell in the 20 starting 29th. We know what he can do on plate races, winner of the Daytona 500 last year.
Did really well this year too, again.
Yeah, 6,600 is a great price tag. I mean, McDowell, there's not much case you really have to make. He's like, this is his kind of setup.
Yeah,
car that is equal speed to the field, just needs to handle it well. That he handles airtight spaces pretty well. I like McDowell. Cash play for sure. When we're talking values, McDowell and Lejoy stuck out over the rest for me. And then this next gentleman, but I worry sometimes that we'll go ahead and introduce him, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. I worry sometimes that he's going to be the guy that's going to try that third lane on the outside, and like him and another driver we'll get to later, they're going to be the scapegoats that try that outside lane and get sucked into the wall, or I don't know.
I know driver starting 7th.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because he did it all day today. But yeah, Ricky Stenhouse definitely going to be the other value play. And man, Christopher Bell right there, 7,700. That's a ridiculous price tag. What are we going to do here? Like,
I'm locking in Ricky. He was like, had a rocket ship. He is great on plate tracks.
Oh, I'm playing.
Bell has spun in every single cup race this year, and a couple times in practice, and
so you're saying
probably at the Coliseum. Yeah, I just he's having a tough time with his new car. So GPP, I think that he is going to be one of the highest owned guys because, again, he's one of the ones that I think people are going to try to jam in. I think with
the chatter on him on Twitter is insane. He's going to definitely be chalk tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm going to be underweight. You know, I need to see more stability.
Yeah, this is not a car with stability like I've been trying to. I mean, yeah, speed wise, he was great, right? But
no, the only thing that could help him, like I said, is like if the teammates pull him up by the bootstraps and they're able to keep him in like a drafting pattern and something where, you know, he's not going to have to make individual moves, that could benefit him. And I think, you know, a GPP stack, I'll definitely do a Gibbs one, seeing how the Gibbs cars work together today. I'll probably do a Penske one. I'll probably do a Hendricks one if I can afford it. It's usually hard to get those 4 drivers. So probably would have them, and then I'm going to end up with Cody Ware and BJ McLeod as my final 2, if that math even works. But
hey, maybe you can get Cody Ware and Lejoy, because
that'd be nice.
Definitely in on Stenhouse. I think he's the cash play here with McDowell. I'm going to have some ownership on Bell for the FOMO idea for the multi lines, but I could see being underweight in like my 20 entry max. So like, I don't know, maybe like putting him at 35% my 150 max, but then only like 10% in the 20 entry max, and just like, hey, if he has a shit race, I'm only losing 50-cent lineups and not, the $4 and the $1, right? So I would gamble that way instead of either being all in or all out. So I think that's how I'm going to attack a super chalky value play like Christopher Bell, who can, at your point, spin out it every time.
Yeah, I think the leverage you have if he doesn't work out.
Yeah, which would be way more, but I
Yeah.
would still be covered in the 50 cent, right? So next up we have Martin Truex Jr. 9,200. This is chalk. I am going to play.
I'm skeptical though, because he's not a great plate racer. If this runs more like a 1.5-mile track, sign me up. But
it does at times.
But
like
he
the long
really,
runs.
he seems to be struggling too with this car this year. Like and I know he like cut down a tire a couple times and ended up in the wall. That's like how he got here. He was actually running decent, but he really I've yet to see him dominate anything. Now, again, at this price where he's starting, we really don't need him to go up there and lead laps. It's not like he's like 14K Kyle Busch in like Xfinity or a truck race, but still, I don't know. I mean, he looked decent, top 10 in practice. So realistically, into the top 15, that's 9 to 10 place differential points. So I can see it, but I'm probably going to be underweight on him with the field. I don't think he's a priority in cash, but I can see the play.
Okay. Well, I like the salary the most, I think I would say. But I honestly don't think salary matters tomorrow.
Right. True.
Like there's the way that, I was just flirting with building lineups, like with a player like Lejoy and McDowell, and even if you wanted to throw in Burton into the mix and then Stenhouse, like you can make any lineup pretty much work. Like half the time I'm trying to save salary just to be different, because I felt like that would be a chalk, multiple duplicate, whatever you want to say. But yeah, salary doesn't really matter. It's going to be about finishing position. And if Truex is not going to uphold a good finishing position, although he is starting 26th, like if he's only going to finish 20th, then there really is no point to the play. If he's not going to finish, higher than top.
Right. But what I think is coming is I think everybody is going to try to play Hamlin, Larson, Keslowski, and Truex, which leaves you 5,800, which isn't bad. So it is not going to give you Cody Ware and BJ McLeod. I think that is reasonable and doable. But
wait, people are going to play Brad Keselowski?
Just because, yeah, I have him as a fade, but he
I get it.
Yeah, but look where he's starting, and people will remember that he did have some success on play tracks. Like it was probably about like Daytona 4 years ago, but
earlier this year at Daytona he was a top car, although he was wrecking everyone, which he'll probably do tomorrow. And now that I'm thinking about how this race might play out with him in the field, I'm about to get really upset tomorrow, aren't I?
Yeah, especially when Truex is the first person he takes out on lap 2. Because they're in close proximity there. But no, I think that's going to be like one of the strategies. Everybody's going to look at like Hamlin starting at 15th, who's been like really good at tracks, and we'll get to him in a second, and Larson, who is been really good at NASCAR. So and you have Keselowski and Truex back here too. Jam them all together, find your 2 value plays, call it a day.
Sure. The guy in between Keselowski and Truex here, Todd Gilland.
Oh.
If you've noticed, this guy's been pretty good.
Yeah. And it's because it's a kind of an underrated team. Like we said, like he had a really good team. Did he win the truck championship last year? No, he didn't. It was one of the Smiths. But he was up there competing.
No, he was in trucks last year.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's the same team. Like he moved at the front row, like has not front row. Yeah. And he's teammates with Michael McDowell, who's really good at this type of racing too. So I can see it, but I feel more of a GPP, like practice numbers didn't look the greatest. So I think he at least can probably finish where he starts. But I think if you look at Truex, Bell, Stenhouse, Grigson, McDowell, Burton, he could lose 5 spots like right there. And there's not really 5 guys above him that I think might fall down as far.
I think he's going to be in the 150 max.
Okay.
I don't think I'm going to have him in like any kind of the single entries or anything like that, but he makes for an interesting play. If he kind of beats out the war of attrition tomorrow. Next up is Keslowski. We talked on him a little bit, has a lot of good, plate history, super speedway history, had a good car at Daytona earlier this year. I wonder if they're bringing the same car from that event over to Atlanta. That would be interesting. 8,600 is a decent price tag. You have him as a fade. Now, are you going full fade, or are you just going to play a little bit of ownership and hope he doesn't pan out?
I might sprinkle him in a little bit, but I think this is where his luck runs out, and he's one of the ones that ends up collateral damage. So,
God, I hope. Next up, we have Eric Jones, 6,900 prime play. Talk me into this one. I didn't have this on my radar.
He has been consistent and fast, and other than like a flat tire, I think it was in maybe Vegas or California. Like he
wrecked in the top 10 late in the race at I believe
California
Phoenix?
or Vegas, but it was a tire that got cut
no
down.
It was Vegas.
Yeah, it wasn't his fault. So, but he's had this team has been fast this year. They were top 15 in practice, 69, and he's been really good at plate races. He was running up there at Daytona. He has been sneaky fast this year. So I am really in on him. I think that he is a really nice, safe play here. Like I said, if people are trying to jam in some of these bigger guys, I think 69 might be a little bit out of your price range for him, but I really see good things from him. I like how he actually didn't, when he was with Gibbs, didn't he win a couple of plate races?
Well, he won Michigan. I like that crossover. And I believe he won Talladega at one point.
So, and I think he won a duel too.
Okay.
At Daytona. So
yeah. So the team's on the ups this year, so that's for sure. Yeah. I just wondered about his starting position. I guess I don't know. I guess I'm kind of making excuses. 6,900 is a good price tag. I should just respect the price tag and play him, and I'm going to. Justin Haley at 6,100. Is he starting a little too far forward?
Yeah, I think so.
Like the points aren't going to work here, right? Unless he finishes inside the top 15 or top 18. Is he capable of that? I don't.
He had the 7th fast practice. I mean,
yeah. Well, that could easily have just been in the right draft for the right 10 laps. You know what I mean? Like,
true.
That was the point of. That's what I took away from practice. Like Corey Lejoy was super fast too, but he was running with Kyle Busch, Joey Logano and Ryan Blaney, and it just worked because he was in the fast, draft. So
he gets 26 points if he finishes where he starts.
So is he finishing forward?
That's like 4.26x. I usually look for cash for like at least 4x for floor. Sure. So
I think it's risky in a way because of the starting position, but hey, if it's low owned, give it a shot.
Okay.
Yeah. That would be my take. Kyle Larson here, 10-5. Probably going to be the chalk, but Kyle Larson.
He's not a good draft racer.
So bad in the draft. I'm glad someone else sees it. He is a mute. Like, he is non-existent at Talladega and Daytona. Like, sure, he can run inside the top 5, but he doesn't run there all day. He doesn't dominate plate races. He's not inside the top 2. I don't even think the crew chief comes up with the right car setup. Like, he's just built for the 1.5 miles in the short tracks, and that's it. And now he gets a little bit of road courses.
Right. Yeah. Yeah,
I'm going to be underweight to the field on
yeah,
Kyle Larson tomorrow.
same.
Yeah. Not afraid either. I don't think he's going to dominate this race. I think he's just going to, if he's going to do anything, he's going to have place differential. And that'll probably be the only reason why I play him. I wouldn't pick him to dominate. And I could definitely eat my words tomorrow. Cole Custer, the number 41, 6,300, not a bad price tag on him. But do we have faith in Cole Custer like we have faith in Justin Haley, or do we have faith in Cole Custer like we have faith in Eric Jones?
Neither. I think that actually, I think Haley might be able to outperform him, but
okay,
a different type of track. But then again, if it's more like a super speedway, I give it to Haley. If it's more like a mile and a half, then I think, Custer might be okay. He's in a Ford. So, if you can hook up with like maybe Keslowski and Gilliland and McDowell for something, that's fine. I don't think he's going to be, I don't think he's going to be hanging with the Penske cars because it's, it didn't seem like complete manufacturer packs. It just seemed like kind of affiliation. So, I mean, I can see it. The price isn't bad, but, like I really like the next guy, Bubba Wallace, even though he's 1,000 more.
I love Bubba Wallace.
Yeah.
Please tell me this is a Bubba Wallace race because he loves his car.
Yes.
Loves his car. He shut it down 20 minutes left in practice, said, don't touch it. That was all I needed to hear. I was like, okay. And he had good control of it. He said the speed was great. All that's going to get in the way of Bubba Wallace finishing inside the top 10 tomorrow is Bubba Wallace.
Is Brad Keselowski.
And Brad, God dang it. I'm going to hate tomorrow already. I was so excited for this race until we figured this out. Dang it. No, Bubba Wallace loves his car. Cash play. Next question. Ty Dillon, 6,000. I think this is a little too far forward.
Yeah, and that's why I have him as a fade. Like, again, he's shown some good speed this year in the second petty car. And could he hang around here? Possibly. But when his practice was 17, but I don't know. If I'm like in the 6K range, I would rather take a shot on Grayson. Not a cash though, but
probably Burton.
I'd rather like find the 400 for Burton. The 600 more. I think he's kind of almost in no man's land here.
Like the guys that we talked about in the back, for sure over Ty Dillon. Maybe I'll have a sprinkle of them in the 150, but honestly, he might be a full fade.
But honestly, if you ended up with $6,000 exactly left, I think I would take Grayson, even though I said I wasn't a huge fan of him, just for the place differential potential, because that these guys aren't going to get up there and be leading the race or anything. Gregson could potentially, just because I could see him like, again, we talked about like Kyle Sieg, I think, doing this today. I don't know if he did or not, but he actually was like pretty high up.
Ryan Sieg,
Ryan,
he was in second place all the way.
Couldn't you see like Gregson, like, I'm not racing for points or anything, so I'm going to pit like 3 laps before the competition caution or before the end of the stage, and I'm going to stay out there and I'm going to lead like 10-15 laps until because tire wear really isn't too much of a factor here.
No.
So if I look at those two guys together, then definitely. So I mean, he's a GPP to a fade, but I'm just marking it as a fade just because I think they're just starting too far forward. I just see him falling back to like 25th and losing me like 7 points.
I agree. Next up, we have Austin Dillon, 7,400. I think he is the sneaky play of the day tomorrow.
I know that you're going to say that he's good on play tracks and stuff, but this year he's been nothing. He like even in practice today, he was like in the 30s, like, and maybe it's because they're trying to adjust the car and figure things out, but I don't even have him as a fade, but I would, like if I'm in that range, like I'm taking Bubba, I'm taking Stenhouse.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I can't really see scenario, like with all these guys around him, that where I would like land on him and take him. I'd even potentially maybe chance it with Almarola, who's like starting 10th, which is kind of risky over Austin Dillon, because I mean, could he hang around and do well? Yes, but I think he's gonna, I don't know, he could possibly finish where it starts. That's why I have him as a GPP, but I don't have a good feeling there.
The only thing that I think makes him an optimal play is if this kind of ends the same way Xfinity did with the wrecks, the big one, multiple wrecks there on the restarts at the end for overtime. Austin Dillon seems to do a very good job of keeping the car clean. I think that's how he got into the position to win the Daytona 500 the way he did. He kept, like, he had that Ryan Newman mantra going where he just stuck it to the back of the pack, didn't get in anybody's way, kept the car clean, and at the end took advantage of being the only car without a scratch on it, and he won. I think that's something we see similar with Austin Dillon. He does not have a really good car, but I think what he's really good at is keeping it clean, keeping all four wheels on the track. Well, I shouldn't say that. He is someone that has been in the catch fence before, but my case for Austin Dillon is if you build a lineup for a certain way the race goes, like if you stack the back and your one low owned play was Austin Dillon and then you saved a bunch of salary, I could see that paying off if there was a ton of wrecks tomorrow. I think that's where I was going with sneaky. Like if that happened and nobody's looking, I could see Austin Dillon being in the winning lineup. Your thoughts on Cindric here? 7,800, probably the better play.
Yes, and let me just check something here, because he won Daytona, so we really have to take that, and he's really done well this year as a rookie, and he's with a team that he could work with that could really help him out. Okay, so I'm a little bit off here. In Xfinity, I said that rookie Austin Hill, who won Daytona, he started 14th. He did, it translated in that series. He was up there towards the end. He almost won it. He finished second.
Yeah.
I can see Cindric getting up there, actually challenging for the lead, leading some laps, and potentially having a shot to win this at 7,800. I couldn't put him a prime play just because of how far he's starting up, and I liked the combination of Jones, Stenhouse, and Lejoy a little bit more, but he's probably gonna be the fourth guy in my lineup.
Yeah, that you just have to play him tomorrow. I don't see a way around it. And if people aren't going to play him, I think we're going to profit heavily.
Yeah, I think he's going to have low ownership too.
Yeah, I think that's silly. Next up, we have Denny Hamlin, 10-1. As you had said earlier, probably the expected chalk stud of the slate.
And I think he's just lost his mojo. He just doesn't look like he's looking more like Kevin Harvick than he's looking like Denny Hamlin.
It's the worst start I've ever seen him have.
Yeah,
it's insane. But I feel like at any moment the finger snaps and holy shit, Denny Hamlin's back.
And it could be the Gibbs factor again, whereas if he's able to hook up with his teammates and they're able to, safety in numbers and strength in numbers, then potentially good things could happen. But he's a GPP. I'll probably be underweight on him with the field. So, I mean, I'll take a little bit of a special. He'll be like one of the first ones in GPP, but probably, he will probably replace Kyle Busch this week as my first guy in GPP.
It's an interesting take, though, to think that he's pulling the Harvick of a few years ago when we were getting off of Harvick as like the guy that used to win every week. When we just had, okay, something's wrong with him, something's wrong with the team. They've kind of lost it. I think, is this like the start of it for Denny Hamlin?
I hope not, but it might be.
Yeah.
And they say, like, once drivers reach like 39 and turn 40, it's like I don't know if like physically or mentally, or like it just like the racing just starts to pass them by. So maybe we'll see a renaissance. Maybe it's just
That's
bad luck, and all of a
small
sudden
hiccup.
like
Yeah.
he'll come. Or maybe it's like Truex last year where we're just like, man, what happened to this guy? And then all of a sudden the playoffs start, and all of a sudden
Yeah.
all these like cars, like, hey, it's game time. It's like playoff LeBron,
Sure.
you sleepwalk through the season, and then all of a sudden, when it really count, just get in there and then make it happen.
Yeah. We could.
It's got to be hard. Like, if he's like 40 years old, been racing like what, 20 seasons or so.
Yeah.
Like
No championships, but 3 Daytonas.
It's got to be like, just like every single year, 38 races a year, like how many they race, plus like the all-star races and stuff. And it's got to be a lot. I know it's their job, I know it's their passion, but yeah, at some point the newness and novelty has got to wear off. Like, this might be something cool because it's something different, so that might like excite them. But somebody that's been doing it that long, it's just, get me to the playoffs, and then let's step up and see what I can do.
Yeah. Yeah, and he knows a driver like himself pretty easily into the playoffs as long as he keeps the car on the track. Chris Buescher and Daniel Suarez.
This is a tragedy. This is an absolute tragedy that the formula put them up this high, because these guys would be stone cold locks if they were in the 20s.
Yeah. I'm not seeing much sticking out on practice times, but I'm not really taking that into a factor. But Buescher looked excellent last week, and Suarez has had a couple of good races in a row. I'm probably going to play both of these guys, even though they're starting at the positions that they're starting. But yeah, not going to be a cash play for me.
Yeah, I agree.
Next up, we have William Byron at 9,400, starting 12th. Here we go. We got some Hendrick cars here. Alex Bowman right in front of them. You want to just talk about these two together?
Sure. I think Byron is the highest, or is like, it's not highest because we're going in reverse order, but it is the last car before we reach the top 10 that I would play in cash. I think everybody else is a GPP, just because Byron, I've seen how well he's done on both mile and a half and on speedways, and he seems to have speed and be decent. Like, I don't know what happened in practice. He was only 27th, but Hendrick's cars have been fast. Bowman, again, he looked really bad in practice.
I was going to say the Hendrick cars as a whole did not look well. I think as a team, they missed the setups on all their cars.
But you have 4 cars, right? Did each one pick something different to try on this new track that they had no data on? And then let's, okay, then we're going to.
Chase looked all right.
Right. So maybe he's the one that everything worked out for, and then maybe they're going, because I've heard of like teams doing this. You got 4 cars, so send them out there, try 4 different things, and the one that works, then we'll all gravitate towards that before the race starts. So it's probably an impound, so they probably won't have a chance to do anything, but it's probably stuff that they can fix pretty quickly in like the first, pit stop.
Sure. Yeah. No secret, in practice, they didn't have any kind of speed until late. They ran as a pack together early on. They all exited the track at the same time. It seemed like they worked on the cars for 10, 15 minutes, came out with about 20 minutes, 10, 15 minutes left to go, raced it all the way till the end of practice, and their lap times got progressively better. So maybe it's an overreaction from us in the industry that, oh no, their practice times weren't, as dominant as the Fords or Toyotas, but it's it's Hendricks and it's super speedway setups. Like, I shouldn't be thinking that they're going to not be ready. Right.
Right. So I like Bowman or Byron over Bowman, but Bowman, has won a lot recently, even though Kurt Busch doesn't give him credit for it.
Kyle.
Yeah, sure, true.
Yeah.
So, but I think we can move on. So now we're finally into the top 10.
Yes. All right. Let's jump in here. Eric Almarola, 76.
GPP, like he's been good at plate tracks and at times, but starting a little too far forward. Had an okay start to the season. He's been top 15. I mean, I think like every single race. So, and he'll have low ownership. Sprinkle him into some of your bigger field contests, but other than that, he's not a priority.
Correct. Kurt Busch, 8,400.
Too high, too expensive, too slow in practice.
I think I'm with you. I don't think there's much in that car. And I know he's okay on super speedways, but I don't really have faith in him finishing inside the top 5. So I'm out. Kevin Harvick, 9,600. I think I might be out here too.
He's starting to look better, and it didn't look really good in practice.
It's just the salary. I'd rather play everyone else in his range.
Okay. Yeah.
I even rather play Tyler Reddick, actually.
Okay.
So I'm out on. I just.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've been done with Kevin Harvick for almost 2 years now.
Yeah.
And I pray we don't get there with Denny, but man, it's getting hard. Ross Chastain, 8K. Yeah. Fade is probably the correct answer.
Yeah, starting way too high, way too aggressive. And even going back to like the Harvick and Hamlin thing, like Jimmy Johnson was one of my favorite drivers. And look what happened to him. There was like a fall off there too. Like, and he was like he was invincible, like 5 straight championships, like 7 overall. Like, yeah. The end comes really fast for these guys. It's
you ain't wrong, man. Ross Chastain, though, fade's probably the correct answer, starting too far forward. Although the price tag's better, but no thanks. Chase Elliott, 10-3. I'm gonna have ownership on Chase. I expect very high ownership on him. I think that I'm always going to be underweight to the field on Chase Elliott this year.
Yeah, the same. Unless he's on a road course, he hasn't won in a long time on anything oval. It's all been road, or I think like, short tracks maybe. But the other thing too is he spun a lot too. He spun last race. I know he had the one where like Larson took him out at California.
He's always in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah. It's just like he won the championship that year, and then he had a sophomore slump. He really hasn't snapped out of it. So he's a good driver. Like everything's there. It's just putting Humpty Dumpty back together again.
Yeah. It's crazy. Like Larson, Hamlin, and Chase, like the only drivers in that 10K range. I think all 3 of them I'm going to be lower owned to the field. On all of my exposure. There's only one 10K guy that I'm going to play this week with full max confidence. And it never matters where he's going to start when we're talking about speedways. We'll get to him in a minute. Kyle Busch, though, 9,800. Yes. Looked like he had the best lap average speed in practice. It looked like he had the best car. That could all change because it's Kyle Busch. And
I kind of like playing, like starting my GPP lineup with Busch, throwing Hamlin and throwing Truex, and maybe put in Bell. Like I said, like play the 4 if they work together, like I think they might. If they don't, then it's my GPP lineup. I'm not losing all my cash money in it. So
yeah, I'm gonna definitely have Kyle Busch tomorrow. That's for sure. I think he could be like a guy that maybe dominates the race early on, maybe not finish it well enough, but I think he's going to hang around the top 10 all day. So I'm going to take that average running position and hope that he can finish the race pretty well. Next up is Joey Logano, 9,900. I think he's starting a little too far forward for cash considerations, but I certainly am going to have exposure.
Yeah, I mean, he almost won Daytona. He just got blocked very effectively by his teammate, Cindric. Didn't he almost won before he got wrecked in the duels.
Keslowski.
Yeah.
Keslowski almost wrecked him in the Daytona last year. Well, no, did wreck him.
Yeah, but like, was that in the duel? Like he pretty much dominated that one duel until it came.
Oh, yeah. And then he tried to make a stupid block and he wrecked himself. Like he backed into someone and then spun out and he blamed himself.
True, but he almost dominated that one. So I think there's a lot of positives here. Yeah. not a cash play, but I think you can definitely, if we're looking at like potentially this maybe being a dominating race and somebody getting out early until that comp caution or to the end of first stage, then definitely these guys are in play.
Yeah, I think that driver is going to be Ryan Blaney. Arguably one of the best super speedway racers on the planet right now. 10.7, I think, is not that expensive.
It's his package too. It's the low horsepower one.
He could win the race from the second position tomorrow. If anyone, I think if anyone's going to dominate 100+ laps, I think it's going to be Blaney.
True.
Yep. Briscoe is definitely going to do that now that I said that. So please play Briscoe and leave me crying in my own Blaney tears tomorrow. I'm not playing Chase Briscoe. And
congratulations to him for proving us wrong and winning a race last week. But I
was so irritated watching him just dominate. Like nobody could catch him. Phoenix. Nobody could catch him at Phoenix. Like we're talking about like 17 different racing lanes on restarts, and nobody could pass him. I was stunned. Man, I was so upset. You know that one achievement in DraftKings where you have to get the guy that wins the race?
Yeah.
In your lineup. I have 150 lineups every single week. I had 0 Chase Briscoe. 0. Tells you all you need to know about how fun.
I think I had 0 also. So, and I try to max out like since I'm not a pro player yet, I try to max out like the quarter and the dimes just to try to build
whatever.
Up. Yeah. Just try to pump as many lineups to get those achievements up.
But, right. I mean, is that $5, $7, and you're just trying to get the achievements, and that turns into at the end of 6 months of playing in NASCAR,
you're getting like 5,000 crowns like every week. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, why not? Whatever. So yeah, that'll probably wrap things up for the driver by driver breakdown. Any last few words here before we potentially jump into F1?
Yeah. Check that out. We're gonna try to dabble in that, and whereas some other companies are creating separate packages for that, we're just gonna roll it into our coverage of racing in general. Even though it's not NASCAR, we're not going to charge our subs anything different for it. And we're gonna take, I can honestly say I don't know much about F1, and I studied a lot this week like most of us did, but I do know the math and I do know the scoring system, so I think that's going to help us have the competitive advantage.
Exactly. All right, guys, tune into that video. You can like and subscribe to this channel, Fantasy Sports Insight. Like this video, comment below with any questions you may have. You can follow me on Twitter at TKNation47. That is at MegaRuler31. All right, guys, good luck tomorrow in your contest. Let's enjoy, hopefully, a really fun race. Brad Keselowski, please do not ruin it.